And we are live. Hello, everybody. Clank, clonk. Welcome to Guitar Q&A live stream number 22. Can you believe 22 of these? Hello, my friends. I'm here to answer your questions. We have a chat going here. Bruce from Sydney, Australia has a question immediately. Let's get right down to it. Bruce is asking, he just saw Nile Rodgers over in Australia, and he asked, do you teach funk guitar? Do I have any tips? I do. I'm happy to get funky. Bruce, funk guitar is about syncopation, right? Syncopation is a long way of saying funky. And syncopation means emphasizing the offbeat. To emphasize the offbeat, you need to keep a loose wrist, a loose grip on the pick. And I'm going to play for you in a minute to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. If you have any hope of playing something on an upbeat, something funky sounding, being loose and prepared is the trick. By the way, for those of you who are watching right now, when you have a question, I'm sure you do, put a couple question marks ahead of the question, just like Bruce did, and that's how I know your question is aimed at me. I'm going to illustrate this. Actually, I'm just going to do the open 6th string, the E string. Okay, I'm doing down-up picks. Down-up alternate picking on the 6th string. We can all agree that this is not particularly funky, right? I'm just, in my mind, I'm hearing 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. I'm going to apply a little palm muting. Just a little bit. I'm letting my skin touch a little bit because we're about to get funky. Okay, what's going on there? First of all, I'm still maintaining the down-up approach to that fat 6th string. I'm just not hitting the string every time. I'm going to tilt towards the, tilt my guitar a little bit in slow motion. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, now watch this. Some of my downstrokes, I'm going to miss the string entirely. Down, up, miss, up, down. Down, up, miss, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up. See the effect? I start by showing you where the beat is. You can feel the beat, right? 1 E and a 2. I'm playing that downstroke a little bit louder. So hopefully we can all agree. There's the downbeat. Now watch what happens when I leave some of those downstrokes out. Okay, so how do you begin to practice this? Don't worry too much about the palm muting. Don't let that hang you up. If you've never done that before, don't let that hang you up right now. Start on your fat string, down, up, down, up. Now remember, your wrist, to the extent that your wrist is involved, your wrist is always going to be thinking down, up, down, up, down, up. But some of those downstrokes, no sound. So pick one. How about the first one? I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, down, up, down, up. But 1 is going to be a silent downstroke in slow motion. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So in effect, what you're doing is an up, down, up. But that first downstroke exists, right? Now, how about a normal 1, 2, 3, 4, but the second time omit the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, miss, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now is that incredibly funky? No, but you're on your way, right? You're omitting a downstroke, and in a way, by omitting a downstroke, it calls attention to the upstroke, which is happening on an upbeat. And now we're getting into the world of funkiness and syncopation. All thanks to a loose wrist, a loose arm. You gotta be relaxed, right? Loose wrist, loose arm, relatively loose grip on the pick. So leaving out occasional downstrokes, and you can make an exercise, for yourself. Let's say if I were to write this, if you and I were doing one-on-one lessons right now, I would write out 8 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then I would list a bunch of exercises where we omitted either 1, 3, 5, or 7. Okay. Do you get what I'm saying? So maybe I'm going to omit 5. Watch this. Meaning the 5th stroke, which not coincidentally is a downstroke. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now without my talking. Throw in a little palm muting with the edge of your hand. Let's give my left hand something to do. Okay, all right, now we're up and running. So funk guitar. I'm choosing to focus on one string. You could do this whole thing, everything I just did, with a chord instead. I would highly recommend a 7th chord, D7, C7, A7, E7, any one of those 7th chords. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything exotic. But then I'm going to use E7, 2-finger E7. The same notion, but you're strumming lots of strings, right? I'm going to omit that 5 again. Here's the E7. All the strings now. 1, 2, 3, 4, miss. Up, down, up. How about notice how in that final 1, 2, 3, 4, I caught the strings, the ringing strings with the edge of my hand after I said 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, caught it. 6, 7, 8. Okay, a little funky. All right, so Bruce, there's some thoughts. It all starts loose wrist, loose arm, relaxed state of mind, and especially on the chord strumming version I just did. I can't even emphasize enough how loose the grip on my pick is. I mean, it's just about ready to fall out of my hand. Don't think, oh, I know what I'll do to get that feather light sound. I'm going to use a paper thin pick. Don't do it. Don't do it. You can achieve that nice light sound with any pick as long as you're not squeezing it too tight. Some of you regulars may know I'm not a fan of those paper thin picks. Okay, so Bruce, thank you for that question. I hope that helps a little bit. And hey, lucky you that you got to see Nile Rodgers. What an interesting guy. DG is saying, hi, Jonathan, greetings from Scotland. DG, good to hear from you. Harmonica and Guitar Progress is asking a good question. He says, how do you approach working out a song with no lesson available? That's old school, right? Back in olden times, 1996. How did everyone learn how to play songs if there's no lesson? Now, I assume HGP, I assume you mean no video on YouTube, right? And ideally you'd go to a local guitar teacher and they would know the song, or they'd be able to figure out quickly, and hey, for the price of one lesson, they could write out for you. That's not realistic a lot of the times, right? So how do you work out a song with no lesson available? It's a tough one. I can only speak generally, right? Because we could be talking about the chords to the song. We could be talking about the strum pattern for the song. We could be talking about the lead guitar riff or some epic solo in the middle of the song. That's a tough one because you're working by ear, right? You're trusting your ear to get some sort of handhold on the song, to figure out even one chord of the song, or if it's a lead guitar riff, to even figure out, a couple of the notes. It's tricky because no matter what I say right now, it still comes down to your patience, your musical ear, which is a muscle, by the way. No matter what you think your ear is, your ability to hear a song and figure it out, it's going to improve over time, especially if you put your mind to it. So my short answer to your excellent question is try to figure out the chords, try to figure out at least one chord that the song seems to keep coming back to. And that I'm not saying it's easy, because it could be in a weird key. If it's in a certain key that doesn't lend itself to playing E, A minor, C, all familiar chords. Yeah, so my gut is to try to find the one chord that the song keeps coming back to. Sometimes people will post the chords, even if they haven't posted a video on how to play it. The chords are out there somewhere, but again, the premise here is that no, nothing is out there anywhere. So yeah, that's a tough one. But know that it could be a hard tune that nobody can figure out right away. Most of us, and it could be an easy tune that you actually figure out surprisingly quickly. And there's a massive spectrum in between. Let me give that some thought. Gonna say a few hellos here. Jerry from Republic, Missouri. Hey, Jerry. Beginner Guitar Lessons is our moderator. Hello, Beginner Guitar Lessons. Music Fan is wishing me a hello. Gregory, I see your question here. Gregory, you're asking a good question. Gregory is asking, any good flat picking or cross picking exercise routines? Yeah, let me think of what I have, at my fingertips, so to speak. For those of you who have not heard the term cross-picking is a bluegrass. I associate it with bluegrass playing. Bluegrass music is the music where you're most likely to see cross-picking. And there's a few different definitions of what cross-picking is. But one way to explain what cross-picking is, and then I'll get into the practice routine in a minute, is approaching the guitar the way a bluegrass banjo player would approach playing a bluegrass banjo, which is a never-ending stream of notes. Think about your typical idea of what a banjo sounds like, right? Like that never-ending stream of notes. And yet a song is coming out. You hear a melody along with lots of filler notes in between that are slipped in there intentionally, so that the song never loses its momentum, right? So cross-picking is guitar players' version of that, where your picking hand never stops. I do have a video that is the song Lean On Me, right? Lean On Me. How, I know it's going to sound weird, how you can cross-pick the intro to Lean On Me. And when I timestamp this video, I will put a link to that video in the chat. But you can just go to my YouTube channel and search for Lean On Me, or just search for Lean On Me and put my name in there, my channel, JKEHEW, the number 1, JKEHEW1, and it'll pop up. So, okay, let's get right down to your question though, Gregory. A while back, a week or two ago, 1 or 2 live streams ago, I mentioned a very simple flat picking exercise, which is not going to be exactly what you're looking for. But remember that thing where you grab any chord, I'm grabbing E major, you hit the bass string, the fat 6th string, and then a light down up, and then the 5th string, and the 4th, 3rd, remember that? So this is pretty simple stuff, and I want to give you something more challenging than that. But that's like the first one that comes to mind. Okay, a flat picking exercise routine. You could take what I just did, and instead of doing a single downstroke on the 6th string and then that light brush, you could do a down up, say just in the 6th string, and then the 5th string. What about dividing the down up? I'm going to go slowly for a second. 6, 5. Remember, 6th string is the fat string, right? Okay. 6, 5, 5, down on 6, up on 5. And then that light brush. 6, 5, 5, 4, 4, 3. Ooh, I like that. I kind of figure if I can do it, it might be a little bit too easy for a lot of you, because if I can do it, right? But you get what I did there? Down on one string, up on the skinny neighbor. In this case, I went from the 6th string to the 5. Got to be a down up. That's kind of the whole point, right? Down up. I do squeeze my pick a little bit tighter, so those notes pop out, you know? And then I relax for the... And by the way, that little light brush, you know, it's a little down up on, say, the 3 treble strings. The upstroke, I might only be glancing off 1 or 2 strings. Don't overthink that upstroke. The less you think about it, the better. Okay, so Gregory, that's what comes to mind right away. If you and I were doing a private lesson right now, I'd run over to my big shelf of books, which is 10 feet over there, and I have a bunch of books on, you know, cross picking, and I would grab one of them and we'd open up to a page and get right down to it. So how about if we say to be continued? Because we could take 15 minutes of one of these live streams and do like an intro to cross picking, including some good exercises. It's funny because I admire bluegrass playing so much, considering it's not my goal in life to be in a bluegrass band. But man, like bluegrass tunes and the bluegrass techniques are so great. And just practicing makes you a better guitar player. And so I'm glad you gave me a chance to talk about that a little bit. Who else is here? Stephen Mannion. Hey, Stephen. A to Z me, you got your guitar in hand. Oh, A to Z me, I have an agenda, and I'll tell you about my agenda in a little bit. Roberto from Uruguay, welcome. Who else is here? Chris, hello, Chris from New Jersey. Charlie Beagle, how are you, sir? Okay, so everybody, while you are thinking of some good questions, and I'm double checking to make sure I haven't missed any, Scott Rhodes, I want to tell you a little bit about my agenda today. Oh, and I want to tell you, as always, that there is, nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, that there's a way you can support the channel here, which I'll tell you about in a moment. Okay, so on my agenda here today, here are some things that I will share as the questions come in. Okay. Before I forget, there's a way you guys can support what we're doing here. In the link I just put in the chat, I just put an affiliate link to our friends over at Sweetwater. Many of you shop at sweetwater.com. And if you're going to head over there and buy something in the near future anyways, do me a favor, click on that link that I just put in the chat, okay? And then when you shop at Sweetwater, they send a little bit of their profits back to our channel here to support what we're all doing here in our community. By the way, once you click on that link, it lasts, so to speak, for I think 14 days. So it doesn't mean you have to buy something tonight, right? Sunday, Monday, they've got you. They know that you've been, you know, recently to their website, and I believe I get the same. They send me the same little support no matter what. You do not pay a higher price. Remember, you pay the same low price at Sweetwater.com. It's just their way of helping out what we're doing right here, which I appreciate. Thanks, Sweetwater. Okay, so here are some things on my agenda tonight. I want to talk about how guitars are adjustable. Some of you are well aware of this. Some of you may not be aware of how adjustable guitars are. This is extremely important because I hear about a lot of you folks shopping for guitars, and this is something you have to keep in mind. So we're going to talk about how guitars are adjustable. I want to talk about the ABC approach to, quote, unlocking the fretboard. It kind of makes me crazy because, you know, half of the videos you see on YouTube, right, in the guitar community involve unlocking the fretboard, and yet they all have different approaches, which is fine. So I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. This is simply a novel way of looking at the fretboard. And that's what anybody is doing. Anybody who claims to be unlocking the fretboard, they're simply showing you a way of looking at it that you might not have thought of before. So we're going to talk about that today. I was I was at a bar that had some karaoke, and I had this idea of, imagine karaoke, like at a bar, whatever, restaurant, but guitar player karaoke. So I want to talk about that. It's just a little fantasy that popped in my head. I want to talk about, me and Julio down by the schoolyard. I want to talk about that classic intro rhythm guitar riff as a very cool exercise that you can do, and it will make you a better guitar player. Did anybody see my newest blooper video? I put it out there on social media a few days ago, and then right before this live stream was a big premiere of a 31-second video. I'm just having a ball with this blooper video thing, so I hope some of you got a kick out of that. Don't forget, at some point today, we are going to, about the 1 hour mark, you are encouraged to ask a dumb question, right? We do this every live stream. Ask me a dumb question. If you have a question right now and you are concerned that it might be a dumb question, that's okay. At the 1 hour mark, go ahead and ask it, because that's when you ask a dumb question. And you know what? As it turns out, the ones you guys have given me are not dumb questions. But for anyone who's shy, the 1 hour mark is officially when I would say, please ask me a dumb question. And one more thing before I get back to the chat here. I'm big on words that we use to describe everything about the guitar. Certainly about everything about attempting to be a better guitar player. And I had this idea to describe things not as like hard or harder than something else, but as more complex. So I want to dive into that a little bit, describing something as simply more complex than something else, not quote harder. Words matter. Okay, so I'm going to say a few more hellos. Hey, Susan just joined us. Hello, Susan. Susan, I think you and I have an appointment coming up pretty soon. Walter is in New Mexico, headed back to Texas, but you're listening. All right, man. Welcome. I'm glad you are. And I think I said as many hellos as I have. Excellent. We got 32 people involved already. Beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about the adjustability of guitars. By the way, today's live stream, as always, is sponsored by Vitamin Water, or at least it's hydrated by Vitamin Water. The theme today is focus, and I made an effort to choose a flavor here that did not have any surprises. So no caffeine like last time, and no probiotics like the time before that. I just go for the pretty colors, and then I'm always shocked by what I find in there. Okay, so here is what I have found teaching over the years. People will shop for guitars, or they might even be lucky enough to own a couple of guitars. And what they'll say is a certain guitar, it was hard to play. I didn't like it. It was hard to play. Now that alone is a perfectly valid, that could be the end of the conversation. Not every guitar feels the same to everybody. The shape of the neck, lots of things. But sometimes the guitar simply needs to be adjusted by a pro, and then it's a lot easier to play. Okay, so never rule that out, especially if you have access to a second or third guitar, or if you're shopping for a guitar. And Gregory, thank you for Gregory is our first super chat contributor of the night. Thank you, Gregory. I appreciate that. And to be continued about cross picking, because I like your question. So some of you, especially those of you who have invested $50, $100 more into having a luthier do a setup on your guitar, you know how adjustable acoustic and electric guitars are. The number one thing, without a doubt, is adjusting the string action, basically how high the strings are off the fretboard. It's so routine Notice I didn't say it's easy to adjust, but it's extremely routine for any guitar tech. It's what they do. I'm going to guess, 70, 80% of their work day is doing what they call a setup, which largely involves, making sure the strings are easy to press down, So the solution is not necessarily just getting skinnier strings, although that's not a bad idea. Bottom line is when you're shopping for a guitar or somehow choosing between multiple guitars, just know that in the right hands, guitars are so adjustable. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's talk specifics for a minute. The truss rod, almost every guitar has a metal truss rod embedded in the neck. You can't see it, it's in there, and that truss rod is there to essentially keep the neck straight. But more specifically, it's almost always an adjustable truss rod to make sure it's not just, quote, straight, but that is exactly the right way. You guys have heard me say guitar necks are intended to bow a little bit, just a little bit. Guitar necks are not intended to be perfectly straight. Your strings are straight, right? But the guitar neck is supposed to bow a little bit away from the strings in a perfect world. That's how you can keep the strings from buzzing against the frets. If it bows too much, the strings are really hard to press down. If it doesn't bow enough, or if it does what they call an overbow, then you get lots of string buzz and you're not even doing anything. You just play an open string and it buzzes, right? So in the right hands, a guitar tech gets in there either from the sound hole or from way up here at the headstock, and they adjust the truss rod. That's what it's there for. You paid for that. You paid for that adjustable truss rod, right? And sometimes that alone gets the guitar to like factory specifications or better than factory specifications, so the strings are easier to press down. And that's true of acoustic or electric guitars. The saddle, I'm pointing, for the record, Your Honor, I'm pointing to the white strip of, could be bone, could be something synthetic, that white strip that's part of the bridge, of the guitar. On electric guitar, it's going to be metallic in some way. That's adjustable. How do you adjust it? Well, like on my Martin guitar here, you take off the strings, you take out that little white piece, you shave the bottom of it, you put it back in, the strings are easier to play because you've lowered the strings, right? Don't do this yourself. Or if you do it yourself, I'm obligated to tell you not to do it yourself. But that's, in the right hands, very carefully, it lowers the string, actually makes the strings easier to play. And also the nut. The nut is that white stripe up there. Again, could be bone, could be synthetic. On one of my guitars, it's actually brass. The nut has slots cut in it, and those are not cut randomly. There's a lot of precision involved in cutting those slots. Don't mess with them yourself. Don't do it. But in the right hands, the combination of adjusting the slots in the nut, if need be, adjusting the saddle height if need be, and then the truss rod almost surely, all of a sudden, whatever the guitar felt like an hour before, it feels so much better, So before I move on from this subject, the number one takeaway is that if a guitar, if it's specifically the string action that doesn't feel right about the guitar, doesn't mean you should, never play that guitar, doesn't mean you should sell it, doesn't mean you shouldn't buy it, whatever. It just means it probably hasn't been set up, quote, quote, hasn't been adjusted or addressed anytime recently. And then you can decide if it's prohibitively expensive. If it's a $25 guitar, the yard sale, and it might be $100 to do a setup on it, you can decide if it's worth it. Might be worth it, might not be worth it, But just know that it's extremely common, very effective. You got to find the right person to do the work, but the guitars are adjustable, and that's what I'm saying. Bruce, number 2 super chat of the night. Bruce, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So just so you guys know what I'm talking about, one way that you can support the channel, aside from shopping at good old Sweetwater with that affiliate link, is to make a super chat contribution. So at the bottom of the chat there is that $, a little rectangular box. And you click on that, and it's self-explanatory, and I thank you in advance. DG asks a question, and DG says, "Hey, Jonathan, my old friend recently bought me a Martin acoustic to cheer me up after completing chemotherapy. Hey, man, congratulations. I can only imagine I can only imagine that whole process. Congratulate. I'm glad you could be here with us. What's your favorite acoustic? Excellent question. I'm going to say something provocative. I don't like Taylors. I just don't like them. Sorry. They're great guitars. They've never felt quite right to me. I don't know. They just don't feel right. Gibsons, the neck. Now, these are all great guitars. And there's plenty more of that, So the Martin neck, Martin has always just felt good to me. There's a lot of brands I've never tried. But many years ago, I worked in a guitar shop outside Chicago that specialized in acoustic instruments, and I got really spoiled. Not because I could afford to buy any of the guitars, most of them, but I got to try, Breedlove guitars. Oh man, Breedloves are beautiful. Santa Cruz guitars, beautiful. Those felt pretty darn good, Seagull guitars. Let's talk about something maybe a little bit more affordable. Seagull guitars, part of the the family of Godin instruments out of Canada. Seagull guitars, what cool guitars. Now, I haven't shopped for acoustic guitars in a long time. So I'm sure there's plenty of brands out there, but in no particular order. Especially older Yamaha acoustics. So cool. Why don't I own an old Yamaha acoustic? I feel like I had access to one many years ago. I should have bought it. It's probably about $150. I mean, this is 20 years ago. But old Yamaha acoustics, anything Yamaha makes is great. But there's charming guitars. You don't hear that very often. But old, when I say old, I mean like 60s and 70s Yamahas. Very cool. When I was at Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire over the summer, they had a very cool Harmony Sovereign guitar. And I told you guys that it was like the little brother to this Harmony Sovereign guitar. Definitely used. I don't know if they knew what year it was, but that was a cool guitar. So the Harmony name has been around forever, and it's sort of been passed around. Different corporations buy it. And so I'm specifically talking about old Harmony guitars and the Harmony Sovereign model. Just a very cool. I happen to have this massive one. But okay, so I hope that some of those names are helpful names. And again, nothing against Taylor guitars. I want to like them. They're so popular, right? I mean, Taylor, obviously it's a very successful company. They make a lot of cool stuff, but they've never felt right in my hand, which shows you how arbitrary all this stuff is, right? Obviously, different. We all have different fingerprints, and it's not much of a stretch to say, well, the shape of our hands, especially by the time you get to adulthood, your hands have been through a lot in the first 20, 30 years of your life. So there's certain things that are just going to feel better than others. Gregory says he just bought a new Yamaha acoustic and delivered it to my guitar tech for setup. Well worth the money. Yeah. Yep. So I hope some of those, I hope I answered your question, DG. And it's great that you got a Martin acoustic. The Martin, I don't live that far from the Martin factory in Pennsylvania. So I got to go there sometime. I think it's not even a 4-hour drive, which, considering you end up at the Martin Guitar Factory, it does not sound like a long drive. I got to go there someday. It'll happen. Okay, bear with me, folks. I'm scrolling a little bit. Don't forget, when you ask a question, to put a couple of big question marks in advance so I know your question is aimed at me. Live to Fly is asking a great question that regards the affiliate link. Live to Fly is asking, Jonathan, how does Sweetwater know we came from your channel? It has to do with that link, technology. That link is not just sweetwater.com. If you look closely at it, it's got some extra things at the end. It doesn't even have a .com. And so that link is unique to me. That's my Sweetwater affiliate link. That's about as far into it as I know. But yeah, yep. Okay, Ryan, welcome. I'm scrolling down, my friends. HGP is asking, how did you learn the songs you know? Do you know only some in parts? I have a lot of guitar books. You guys know that about me. I'm a book guy, and I have some books that are nothing but collections of songs. I have other books that are very specific things. So whereas some people put a lot of effort into playing great guitar solos, learning famous guitar solos. Some people put a lot of effort into learning all sorts of amazing techniques, physically challenging techniques up and down the fretboard. I spent years and years and years just learning the chords to certain songs, so I could get up, play, and sing the song. No, trust me, I wasn't doing anything fancy in the middle, any cool, like amazing guitar solo, but I got to the point where I could play, dozens and dozens of songs by memory, because I knew what the chords were, and I knew an appropriate strum pattern or finger picking pattern, if not the exact pattern. So your question was, how did I learn? Largely just, I learned the chord changes out of a book, and then either the book would suggest a strum pattern or tell the strum pattern, but very often it wouldn't. But if you know enough strum patterns with your picking hand, then you apply one of the ones you learn. Say, oh, wait, that pattern goes well with that song. Got it. I'm good to go. Good enough for the coffee shop, So Stephen Mannion is asking, what's the t-shirt of the week? Well, we have a return of Color City Guitars from Troy, New York. I thought I'd give them a shout out today. Color City Guitars from Troy, New York. I visited a bunch of guitar stores over the past few months. Not all of them had t-shirts ready to go. Some of them are like, we're out of t-shirts right now. So I grabbed what I could. So yeah, Color City Guitars. So let's see. Okay. Joseph Galasso, hello. Joseph Galasso has mentioned the Art and Lutherie, A&L, Art and Lutherie acoustic guitar line. Yeah, excellent, beautiful. Also part of the Godin guitar family, along with Seagull guitars. So good Canadian stuff. Supporting those hard-working people. Okay, let's see where we are here. I'm scrolling down here. Joseph also has a mini Martin Dreadnought. You guys, that's awesome. It's awesome. Okay, so while we're waiting for some questions to come in, let's talk about karaoke for guitar players. Humor me for a minute, folks. Imagine karaoke night at a bar, right? But it's karaoke for guitar players. So, you bring your guitar, right? They've got like a karaoke system, but this one allows you to plug your guitar in, acoustic or electric, either way, right? Song pops up on the big TV, but instead of just the lyrics, forget that. It's got the guitar tab up there, right? And you get up there and wouldn't that be great? And just pick any song, right? And they're all just like karaoke nights, any song you want. And you get up there and you play the guitar along with that song. And everyone claps their hands. Woo, good job. You know what I mean? I think it's a great idea. I don't know. So somebody follow through on that, make $1 million. I'll take 10%. I'll call it a deal. I just think that would be a beautiful thing. Imagine though, you plan ahead, right? You work at it like, okay, man, I've got this lead guitar solo. I've got the chord changes, whatever it happens to be. You're up there, you got your guitar. Okay, here it comes. It's got, in a perfect world, the recording would have everything but the guitar part, right? Just like karaoke songs don't have the vocal, right? And then you just bang it out, and it'll give you something to shoot for. Like, okay, man, first Friday of the month karaoke guitar night. I gotta have like one song ready to go. Whatever it is, the chord changes. But because up on the big screen, you wouldn't necessarily have to have it memorized. I mean, it's pretty cool to have it memorized, but you wouldn't have to have it memorized. And then it's all the joys of karaoke, but for a guitar player. Oh, well. I'm Joseph Galasso, our most recent super chat contributor. Joseph, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, want to say hi to my family watching. I believe currently watching my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, my wife, potentially the pets in my house. My wife always gives me a report when I get home, whether or not my presence on the TV screen at home and my voice actually, got the attention of various pets in my house. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what pets make of all this, Bruce is asking a great question. What are some contemporary artists or bands I really admire? Thank you for asking. There's so much good music, and I'm going to give you some names. I put them in the chat. There's so many talented people out there, some of whom I listen to on a regular basis, and I'll let you know. Some of whom I know they exist, but I haven't done a deep dive on what they do. I mean, on all their songs or something, but I see them out there and I think, wow, that guy can really play, just great stuff. So with just by opening your mind a little bit, you become aware of all the talented folks out there. Holy cow. I mean, guitar players, but just, artistic human beings doing beautiful things. Okay. So at the risk of leaving anybody out, because I know I'm going to, tomorrow morning, I'm going to think, I forgot to mention that person. I'm going to put a few names in the chat here. There's a guy I dig so much. I'm putting his name in right now. Okay. Pretty sure I'm spelling it right. Okay, Jake Fussell. Jake Fussell has a folky thing going on. And there we go. When I see him performing, he's performing solo with a Telecaster with a really sweet, nice touch with his picking hand, and doing folky material for lack of a better term. And just so tasteful. Oh man, it's one thing to say someone is, quote, good at the guitar. It's not a very helpful term. But I find calling someone tasteful, number one, that's about as good a compliment as I can come up with. And number two, you listen to it a little bit differently. If someone says, "Oh, this guy's so fast," okay, well, then your brain is like, "How fast is he?" So I'm going to use the word tasteful. Just I like his choice of material, and his recordings. He has really great sympathetic backing musicians. Okay, here's another one. This guy, you're going to recognize his last name. The son of Ry Cooder, Joachim Cooder. Oh, so cool. He does a lot of stuff. One of the things that he's done recently is electrifying a thumb piano, also known as the Mbira, M-B-I-R-A, and playing a lot of very cool stuff on this electrified thumb piano. So interesting. Okay, how about Layla McCalla? Ooh, check her out. Very interesting. Plays a bunch of instruments. Sings, writes her own material, plays the cello. I think she's on tour in Europe right now because she just posted that her cello broke. And did anybody, know of a cello available in that country overseas? Bear with me because I'm gonna find at least one more here, but I want to make sure I spell it right. Heaven forbid I give a shout out and I spell it wrong. That'd be kind of embarrassing. A-N-A. This is a young woman who is jazzier. Anna Carla Mazza. Okay. Coincidentally, also a cello player. She is from Cuba. Okay. I'm pretty sure I spelled her name right. Yeah. Okay. So much good stuff out there. Scratch the surface. And you guys, feel free to put stuff in the chat. I would love to see, especially if I'm not talking about the classics. I'm not talking about how good Led Zeppelin is. You know what I mean? If you have favorites, I'm sure you do, who most of us haven't heard of, yeah, please put that in the chat. That's how a lot of us hear about our newest favorite stuff, is because someone said, "Oh, you're going to like this, check this out." So those are the first ones that come to mind. So Bruce, thank you for the question. Brian is asking a good question. Oh, it's a great question, in fact. Okay. Brian asks, when is the right time to learn bar chords as a beginner guitarist? Excellent question. Many of you have heard me say that bar chords are a pain. Bar chords are not as important as we all seem to think we are as a guitar community. We all think they're so important as a guitar community, and I tend to downplay bar chords quite a bit. So your question is, when is the right time to learn? And I'm going to answer that question, but then I'm going to do a quick little bar chord to give you a little bit of advice about bar chords to follow through. Okay. I would put off learning bar chords as long as possible. You don't get a gold star for playing bar chords. Yes, they open up your song potential. You can play more songs the more chords you learn, including bar chords. Sure. There's some songs you can't play unless you play a bar chord. Okay. But we're talking about getting your fretting hand as limber as possible, strong, flexible, coordinated, before you approach, this whole task of bar chords, so you don't get so frustrated. My number one goal with my own personal students is teach as much non-bar chord stuff as possible, so that when we do start working on bar chords, it's just, you have a big head start because your fingers have already been doing lots of stuff. So all things being equal, if I had a student who was doing lessons with me, say an adult doing weekly lessons, I could easily go the whole first year of guitar lessons, never even mentioning bar chords, certainly not even working. I'd be fine with that. I have so much material. There is so much material, rewarding, beautiful stuff, that you can go a whole year of playing beautiful, challenging, rewarding stuff and never touch a bar chord. Meanwhile, your fretting hand is getting, like I said, limber, flexible, more confident. Between year 1 and year 2, yeah, that sounds like a good. Now what I'm talking about, though, is someone who's committed, right? They're practicing every day or virtually every day. They're taking lessons once a week. If it's someone who's playing once a week, twice a week, for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, nothing wrong with that, no judgment. But then I would never introduce bar chords, because you can't get good at bar chords playing 10 minutes twice a week. It's not fair to your poor fretting hand, Okay, so now here's my advice, because I do encourage you guys to master bar chords. I just don't want you to judge your overall progress on how you're doing on bar chords. They're not that important. There's so many other ways to judge your progress and to take pride in what you're doing, right? Say, oh, I can do X, I can do Y, I can do Z, I can do all this stuff. That doesn't involve bar chords at all. Okay, so bar chords. My advice is overextend your index finger. For the record, Your Honor, my index finger, the tip of my index finger is going way past the fat string. Okay, that gives you some good leverage. I feel like I lose my ability to successfully play bar chords if my index finger essentially stops right at the 6th string. No, I'll go way past the 6th string. Okay, that's one thing. Number 2, thumb pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Your thumb should not be pointing in any other direction, straight up towards the ceiling, just like my index finger is also pointing straight towards the ceiling, okay? A huge one. Here's a huge one. My index finger. I'm actually rolling my index finger onto the edge or the side of my index finger. Which side? The side closest to your thumb. I am not squeezing with the center of my index finger, okay? I'm rolling it so that the skin of my index finger, the skin closest to my thumb, that's the skin that's pressing across the strings. You can facilitate that by bringing your left elbow, assuming you're a right-handed player, your left elbow should come in towards the guitar. Imagine like you're trying to touch the guitar with your left elbow, okay? That will force you to roll that finger onto the correct side. I'm going to do it wrong for a second, okay? Don't be like me. Don't do this. I'm going to roll my index finger onto the wrong side. See how my left elbow goes out like that away from my body? It has to if I roll the finger on the wrong side. Does that look good? Do I look like an idiot? You ever see Eric Clapton with his elbow out like that? No. Okay. So roll your index finger onto the edge closest to your thumb. Bring your left elbow in, facilitates that. And that just, again, helps with the leverage, helps you to get a good squeeze. So those are 3 tips that I found to be really, really successful in helping people master bar chords. They make a difference immediately, and they just facilitate faster progress. So quick recap, overextend your index finger, thumb straight up towards the ceiling, roll your index finger onto the edge, onto the side of your index finger, the side close to your thumb, left elbow in. Is that 4 tips altogether? 4 tips. One last thing, hear me out, because this makes me insane as a teacher. Do not use only your index finger, squeeze across all 6 strings with no other fingers. Don't do it. I know some of you are about to do it. Don't do it. And then judge your ability by if you can get all 6 strings to sound good with 1 finger. I don't sound good that way. You're not going to sound good, and no one cares how you sound doing it that way, because bar chords involve multiple fingers, right? Do not judge your progress, and do not make that horrible sound. You know, someone's going to throw a shoe at you. People do it all the time. Oh, bar chords. Let me see if I can do a bar chord. They think, well, first thing, don't do it. Don't do it. It sounds horrible when anyone does it. And our first siren, we should do like the equivalent of a drinking game. Whenever we hear a siren, we all take a drink of vitamin water. Our first siren of the night. Hey, friends, we are coming up on the 1 hour mark. Just about time for the Ask a Dumb Question. I'll make it official in a minute. Okay, so Brian, just to finish up, thank you for your question about bar chords. I hope those tips help. I know they'll help because I've done this for a long time, but I also know that doesn't make them instantly easy. I have seen people who sound a million times better right away, but then you have to work at it so it becomes a habit, because a lot of times the context is a song with, let's call them regular chords, the cowboy chords, D, E minor, A, E minor, all that stuff. And then out of the blue is a bar chord. And that's a shock to the system, because check it out. Here's my D, here's my A, here's my E minor, right? Watch my whole arm here. When it's time, I'm going to do an F sharp minor bar chord. Look how my whole arm has to commit to this new chord. I mean, everything just changed, which is usually not the case when you're going from, D, A, C, A minor, right? It's all that your fingers are doing the walking. You get to a bar chord, your whole body has to commit to it. It feels like certainly your shoulder, neck, bicep. Okay. So what's my point? Glad you asked. It's one thing to be able to play a bar chord successfully out of context, get a nice clear sound. That's huge. I mean, that's step 1, right? And you're not at the top of the mountain yet. You've still got to be able to grab it quickly. But now you're on your way. So then you're at the final step. And I can't emphasize this enough, folks. All your progress, all my progress happens in stages. And they're kind of predictable stages, or at least they are recognizable stages, So you may have successfully done everything you need to do to be a bar chord player, and you're at the final stage, which is getting to that bar chord quickly, right? You don't want to devalue or ignore the success you've had up to that point, right? You don't want to say, oh, I can't do bar chords. I suck at bar chords. Well, what do you mean? Oh, well, I go to, I'm in the middle of a song. It takes me forever to get there, right? Right? It takes me forever to get there. Yeah, but once you get there, it sounds great. And you memorized it. So you don't even have to look at the paper. Like you've checked all the boxes. You can make it sound good. You've memorized it. You're doing it with, good technique, right? Those things I talked about. So now you're at the final stage. And so you don't want to beat yourself up. Oh, I suck at bar chords. No, you're just at the last part of climbing the mountain, the last part of the marathon. Pick your own metaphor. Okay, so I'm scrolling. Okay, Willie, I see your dumb question. Okay, so let's make it official. Now is the moment. Willie, I'm going to get to your question in a second. Now is the moment. Ask me a dumb question. No question too dumb. Because I know some of you guys might be a little bit like, ooh, I have this question, but it's going to look dumb to put it in the chat. Everyone's going to see my dumb question. My favorite part of teaching is answering questions. It's my favorite part. Especially when the question is relevant to the thing right in front of us, and like, ooh, we get to get below the surface and talk about it. Love it. I have lots of other things I enjoy about teaching, but nothing like, ooh, a good question. And you'd be surprised. All the questions are good questions. Okay. Oh, yeah, Brian, just to follow up, Brian makes a good point. Brian says, thanks for your answer. Really appreciate it. Will learning power chords help with bar chords? Absolutely. How could I forget that? Great stepping stone. Power chord, at a minimum, a power chord gets your fretting hand accustomed to that shape where your index finger is reaching across the guitar and the ring finger is joining in. At least that's your typical power chord. Great idea. Yeah. So Brian, you could be a guitar teacher, because that's exactly what someone within the first year should be mastering, power chords, so that in the second year, bar chords are that much easier. Perfect. I'm going to try to remember that. Next time someone says, "Oh, I've had kids say to me, oh, my dad says that I should get good at bar chords," and I get it, but I feel like saying, "Dad, we got this. We got this." And so next time I hear that, I'm going to say, well, we're going to use the O'Donnell method, young man. The O'Donnell method is to do power chords first, and then we'll get to the bar. It's a well-known method, the O'Donnell method. So Brian, I'm gonna give you credit there. Okay. Jeff is asking, how do you combine chords from a key? So you're playing and okay. Let me read for a second. Jeff, is a good question. Oh yeah. Oh, great. Okay, so I'm going to read your question verbatim, Jeff, and then I'm going to maybe summarize a little bit. Jeff says, how do you combine chords from a key? So you're playing and see what and you want to throw in some chords in a solo. Yep, like as if you said, let's use the key of C major. Yep, pieces of chords from the key. So, oh, great idea. Yep. Despite the fact that we equate a flashy guitar solo with single notes zipping higher and higher up the neck, right? Higher and higher, and so people's fingers are going crazy. Solos, including flashy guitar solos, for lack of a better term, can involve chords or I call them fragments of chords. Yeah. So the short answer to your question, Jeff, is you absolutely have to know what the background chords are. Okay, you have to know what the background chords are, because as soon as you play even just two notes, remember the definition of a chord is 3 notes. As soon as you play even just 2 notes, you're so close. I mean, 2 notes at the same time. How about if I did? I'm going to do 5 and 5 on the 2 treble strings, 5 and 5. Okay, you're so close to playing a chord that it could 100% clash with what the rest of the band is doing in the background, right? Because they may be on they are going to be on a very specific chord, and you can get away with 1 note, even if that 1 note is not one of the notes within the chord that the band is playing, right? You can get away with that. It's just, we call it a passing tone, not a chord tone. But as soon as you play 2 notes, And worst case scenario, neither of them are notes from the chord, right? And maybe you double down and hit it 22 times. That's called jazz, my friends. And for our purposes in our community, I'm going to say that is a bad idea. If this were, more of a jazz guitar thing, that's a whole nother can of worms, So we got to choose wisely. So your question is incorporating chords into solos. And yeah, let's talk about it. Assuming you know the background chords, and I'm going to use A, D, and E as our background chords, because I have a song for you guys. We're going to do our play along in a few minutes. Remember where I play, sing, you guys join in. We talk about soloing on top. That's coming up. Don't go anywhere. Hypothetically, our song is an A major, a D major, and an E major. You can play those three chords way up the neck. They might feel different than how they feel down here, but you can still play those chords up and down the neck, right? Way up high, I mean, right? So, but you better not do it unless you're confident the band is doing the same one, Makes sense, right? Otherwise, it's just, doesn't work. So I'll give you a quick example. One way of playing an A major chord, and make a note of this, you guys, because I'm going to get back to this in a minute when we do our play along. It's going to feel like a D chord. In fact, you can even grab a D chord and just glide your fingers up the neck until you have your middle finger 9 on the skinny E, first string. Ring finger 10 on the B. Index finger 9 on the G. 9, 10, 9. That is an A chord. It's an A chord with a D formation. That's an A chord, right? Okay. Ooh, we still have to do me and Julio. All right, we got an hour left. We got time. So if I was soloing in a song and the band is on that chord, I could totally see myself jumping up, grabbing that chord, and what your pick does with that chord, sky's the limit. You could strum it, some nice down up strumming. You could arpeggiate it. Sounds great. One reason why arpeggiating it sounds great and is totally appropriate is assuming your picking hand is your dominant hand. For most of us, we're righties. Our dominant right hand is in charge of picking. You can go crazy and do all sorts of complicated stuff while your left hand is static. You know what I mean by static, right? Just staying there. It sounds like you're playing some fast guitar stuff, and you are, but it's not thanks to your left hand, it's thanks to your right hand. But it sounds pretty, right? Because you're playing notes from an A chord. Presumably the band is on an A chord at that moment. Great. The band changes to a D chord. There's a D waiting for you right there. Check this out. 10, 10 on the 2 treble strings, 11 on the 3rd string. It's going to feel like an F chord. I call it a fragment of an F chord, except you're way up at 10, 10, 11. And in our scenario, it's A, D, and E. So where is there an E chord right there? You could take the D I just said, 10, 10, 11, move it up 2 frets. By the way, I'm going to put the tab for this in the description of this video when I do the timestamp. So you could take the D, 10, 10, 11, and move it up 2 frets, 12, 12, 13. But let's do a different E just for the sake of learning one more, what I call a chord grip. First string 7, index. 2nd and 3rd strings 9 and 9. I like my index, pinky on the 2nd string, ring finger on the 3rd string. That's an E major chord. Okay, so again, the premise here, you're soloing in the key of A major, maybe an A major pentatonic in our hypothetical situation right here. And you're moving up the neck, or maybe you're not even using an A major pentatonic scale at all. Maybe you're just soloing with chord shapes. There's my A. Here comes the D. Here comes the E. Hypothetically, the song goes back to A. Sounds great. And you're not relying on left hand speed and craziness. because you're grabbing the chord and you're staying there. And the right hand is having all sorts of fun. Okay, so Jeff, you asked about the key of C, so I apologize for going into the key of A. But I hope the reason I was thinking of the key of A is because of the play along we're going to do in a little bit. But you could do the same thing with C, C, F, and G. A minor shows up a lot. But just to wrap up, you absolutely have to know what chord the band is on. And then you have to know how to play, that chord higher up the neck. Not because it looks awesome to play high up the neck, although it does, right? But it's so audible, right? Those high sounds cut through the mix. The band is down, you got the bass, keyboards, rhythm guitar, drums, whatever. You got to escape all that, right? Why do you think all those guitar players play those high notes, right? Those at the climax of the guitar show, those screaming high notes. I mean, aside from the fact that it's a very dramatic sound, they also want to be heard. When was the last time you saw someone play a crazy guitar solo that got lower and lower and lower and lower? I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not as common. Okay. Bear with me, folks. I'm scrolling down. Max is asking a great question. Hey, Max. Max asked a good question. How long did it take for you to get Travis picking down? Yeah, it took me a while. Hey, don't forget to ask dumb questions. These are good questions. We're opening this up to dumb questions. Travis picking, short reminder of what Travis, based on the great playing of Merle Travis. By the way, he was not the first human being to do this type of playing. He just did it so well and popularized it, so greatly that, it gets named after him. And that is what it is, But the premise here, we're in the world of finger picking. If you hear Travis picking, in general, it means finger picking. Although you could do it with a pick and the remaining fingers, like a hybrid version of it. That was not my introduction to this style. My introduction was with Mississippi John Hurt style playing, which for sure predated Merle Travis. But the premise is, I'm going to use a G major chord. And to get to your question, Max, I mean, months. It took me months. Although my problem was I didn't know any finger picking, and so I jumped right into this style using Mississippi John Hurt songs as an example. I jumped right into this with no foundation, which I do not recommend. Okay, the premise here: my thumb is keeping a beat. Happens to be on the 6th and 4th strings. Remember, 6 means the fat string, right? I'm on a G major chord, 6, 4, 6, 4. Now you do that for a few weeks. And then you bring the whole thing to life by adding in anything melodic with your remaining fingers, but you never stop that thumb. Okay, so Freight Train is an example, a really common guitar teacher example of Travis picking. Certainly a good intro to Travis picking. Your fingers are picking out the melody, including potentially your ring finger, but for sure your index and middle for sure. Your thumb is keeping a beat as if it's a whole separate musician, right? I think of it as tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay, so if you want to streamline the process, do what I would call basic finger picking first. I'll get to that in a minute. And then you graduate into the Travis picking. Makes sense, right? Pattern picking first. An example would be Landslide, right? By Fleetwood Mac. You learn the basic landslide pattern. You learn other patterns where things are very predictable and repetitive. Then you do Travis picking where things are not as obviously repetitive, but you have a foundation, So Travis picking would still, here's Landslide before I get any further. you can hear it's repetitive. It's has a nice steadiness to it. Okay. You do enough patterns in general, especially patterns that involve an alternating thumb, where the thumb is on goes back and forth between two different strings, which, trust me, a ton of patterns do that. You learn a whole bunch of those, say over the course of several months. And then when you move on to Travis picking, a song like Freight Train, for example, it just makes sense. And that's what I wish I did. So how long? I would say if you gave yourself a year, where, I don't know, half the year, you learn a whole bunch of pattern picking. Dust in the Wind is another good one. And then the second half of the year, you start off with a tune like Freight Train. And if you cruise through Freight Train and it's easy peasy, and in a week it sounds great, or 1 month, hey, then you got 5 months or more to get to harder stuff. I'm going to put a name of a book in the chat. You guys will recognize this name because I've mentioned it before. Name of the book is Fingerstyle Guitar by Ken Perlman. And it's readily available on Amazon. Okay. And that book does a great job. It really does, of what I just described. It doesn't have Landslide in it. It doesn't have Dust in the Wind in it. It has generic folk tunes. I mean, generic in a good way. But it does have Freight Train, and it has plenty of harder stuff than Freight Train. So yeah. I tend to tell everyone, give yourself a year, give yourself two years for any of this stuff. Partly because it's what I believe, and partly because you want to think in those time frames. Give yourself a year, and that means a year of doing it every day. And if you do it in 3 months instead of a year, how great is that? But I try to keep the pressure down. But I also do believe, give yourself a year, because even if your brain gets it, and even if you physically can play a tune like Freight Train, as the months go on, it's going to become so much more natural, and your body is going to relax as you play it. You're going to let go of all the muscles that are trying to help inadvertently, and you're going to find out just the bare minimum amount of muscles. You're going to play a song so much better. And hopefully a lot of you guys have already had this experience. You play a song so much better than when you simply understood it. You understood the song, but it wasn't flowing yet. It wasn't the way you wanted it to be. So if you think in terms of a year, and again, it doesn't mean it necessarily takes a year to get the basic idea. Just that, you want to get that satisfaction of having something flow smoothly, and that takes longer than simply understanding something. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So hey, I'm gonna go back to my agenda here. Let's do our sing along, play along. We're gonna do a song that some of you are gonna say, "Oh, I love that song," and some of you are gonna say, "What?" California Stars. Who knows California Stars? California Stars, quick history. Lyrics by Woody Guthrie, good old famous Woody Guthrie. But the lyrics were set to music by the band Wilco, and they were joined by Billy Bragg. Remember Billy Bragg? And they made a very cool album where the whole album was Woody Guthrie lyrics, but Billy Bragg and Wilco doing the music. And this is just a great song. Remember A, D, and E that I was mentioning a little while ago? There's your California Stars, A, D, and E. So, and again, I'll put what I'm saying right now in the description of this video when I timestamp it. But grab a pencil, okay? Because this is so clear, so simple. California Stars, 8 beats on an A major chord, 8 beats on an E major chord, 8 beats on a D major chord, and finally 8 beats back on the A major chord. So A, E, D, A. That's it. Warning. it ends up being 16 beats on the A as you circle around, right? The 8 at the end, followed by the 8 at the beginning. No big deal, but don't let that mess you up. Think of those as bookends, right? A, E, D, A. So that's the chord progression. And I'm going to the best of my ability, I'm going to do purely downstrokes, 8 downstrokes. I'm going to try to resist the urge to do anything funkier because I want to keep it clear. You guys can do whatever you want, but I want to keep it clear. For those of you who are like, oh, that's too easy. Yeah. Well, then while we're playing A, D, and E down here, remember the other A, D, and E? A, 9, 10, 9. The A that feels like a D. You play that A. When we go to D, you go to the 10, 10, 11 D. There we go. When we go to E, you go to the 7, 9, 9 E, okay? How about those of you who want to play some lead guitar? After the second verse, I'm going to keep strumming, but lead guitar. You want an A major pentatonic scale. You ready? Starting on the fat string, 2, 5. Use your pointer and pinky. 2nd fret, 5th fret, 5th string, 2, 4. 4th string, 2, 4. 3rd string, 2, 4. 2nd string, 2, 5. 1st string, 2, 5. Okay? 2, 5, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 5. There's your A major pentatonic scale. Now you can solo all over my singing, but I'm going to leave a spot in the middle for you to solo. Okay, and then we'll come back for the final verse. So I'll play through a chord progression one time, and then we'll get into it. Okay, and I'll see you on the other side. 1, 2, here we go. 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. Here we go. I like to rest my heavy head tonight on a bed of California stars. I'd like to lay my weary bones tonight on a bed of California stars. I'd love to feel your hand touching mine and tell me why I must keep working on. Yes, I give my life to lay my head tonight on a bed of California stars. I'd like to dream my troubles all away on a bed of California stars. Jump up from my starbed, make another day underneath my California stars. They hang like grapes on vines that shine and warm the lover's glass like friendly wine. So I give this world just a dream with you on a bed of California stars. I like to rest a heavy head tonight on a bed of California stars. I like to lay my weary bones tonight on a bed of California stars. I love to feel your hand touching mine and tell me why I must keep working on. Yes, I give my life to lay my head tonight on a bed of California stars. All right, everybody make it? Sure you did. All right, so I like picking these tunes where the chord progression is repetitive, clear, the chords themselves, straightforward chords. So now that whole thing was recorded for posterity, right? So that when we're done and this gets turned into a YouTube video, you can go back and say, okay, now what did he say? What's the chord progression? What's that up the neck thing? What's it? And you can spend more time with it, right? Okay, yeah, nice tune, right? Yeah, it's a cool tune. I like to use a song like this, and the other ones that we've done. We did Helpless by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, right, a while back. These tunes are Knock on Heaven's Door. It's proof that you don't have to be a sophisticated, fancy guitar player to write a great tune or to play a great tune, right? So if you are so inspired to write your own songs, don't wait. You know, you don't need bar chords, clearly, right? You don't even need 4 chords. You need 3, you know? Okay, so now we're not done. I'm not done with you yet, you know? We got plenty of time here. So unless I'm missing anything, I'm scrolling here. Don't forget it. We're still doing questions. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. I'm missing out on some of these questions. Okay. Don't worry. I'm scrolling up. I see those question marks. Oh, every once in a while, folks, I realize after the fact that I missed one of the questions in the chat. If you ever ask a question, even with your big question marks, and I don't answer it, most likely I just missed it. So feel free to ask it, you know, now or anytime or the next live stream. Don't take it personally, you know. I feel the need to say that. Okay, so I see a few of the questions coming in. Okay. Okay, Willie, I'm going to start with your question right there. Willie is asking, are there any relative minor notes that sound good together, even though they might be technically wrong? My answer to questions in that vein, always trust your ear. If you play a note and it sounds cool, it is cool. That's the short answer, but I mean it sincerely. When I teach people, say, a pentatonic scale, by definition is a 5-tone scale, right? And they hit a 6th note, it is not necessarily a mistake. It's just something outside of that scale. Sometimes it's a great sounding note. So I usually call it to their attention that, hey, by the way, you might not have realized it, or maybe you did realize it, but that note, let's not call that a wrong note. It's just a note that's beyond the pentatonic scale. Okay, so yeah, I get the spirit of what you're asking, Willie. And I would say if something sounds good, then it can't be technically wrong, you know? So, and this has nothing to do with relative minor or major, any of that stuff. Just, you know, there's rules, and then there's what actually sounds, at a minimum, it sounds interesting, right? So if you have any doubts, find a way to record yourself and say, okay, I'm hitting that note at this moment, and you know, now we need a context, right? So in a perfect world, there'd be some background stuff happening, like what we just did, our play along just then, because without context, it's hard to get a grip on anything. But if you have any way of recording yourself, do it, and then you can be more objective and say, okay, that note, I thought it sounded good in the moment, even though it was maybe something I didn't intend to play, or something that wasn't in the scale I was using. I was intending to use. It would be outside the scale. If you record yourself, you're more objective, and then make up your mind. So that's, I know it's a general answer, but it's a great question. Woody Blakemore is saying, here's a dumb question. Why the name SongBike? I love songs and I love bikes. Bicycles especially, but let's face it, motorcycles are pretty fun. Okay. Scott, I see your question. Scott, I see DQ. I don't understand your question, Scott. Ask me that again. Are we talking about Dairy Queen? That's all I know about DQ is Dairy Queen. I don't know. Okay. Dan is asking a question. Dan is asking, he said, tell me more about your student's Orangewood guitar. What model is it? And do I still think it's a good couch guitar? Dan, I don't remember what model he got, but a few live streams ago, I mentioned that one of my in-person students here in Connecticut just got an Orangewood acoustic guitar. And yeah, it looks great, sounds great. I'm sorry, I don't remember the details beyond that, but his was very cool. And I've heard good things about the company in general. So yeah, so if you're shopping for a new acoustic guitar, I neglected to mention them earlier when we were talking about acoustic guitars that I like, probably because I really didn't play it other than I strummed on it a little bit during my lesson with him. So I didn't bond with it, so to speak, but perfectly cool guitar. Yeah. I don't know if Sweetwater sells them, but if they do sell them, click on that affiliate link up there in the above in the chat, and then shop for Orangewood guitars. Why do I have the feeling that Orangewood sells them directly from their website? They may sell them directly to you, the consumer, cutting out the middleman, keeping the price down. Okay, Gregory is asking a dumb question, but it's not a dumb question. He's asking about coated strings versus uncoated strings. Does it really make a difference? Yeah. Back in the day, I remember trying out Elixir strings when they were relatively new on the market. They definitely last longer. They don't get rusty and crusty. It's a weird feeling. The slipperiness is a weird feeling. So you got to give yourself time to, if you try a coated string, give yourself time to get used to it. It's going to feel weird. Don't give up on it right away. I enjoyed the Elixir strings that I played. I just didn't decide to commit to using them on a regular basis, but they definitely lasted longer, for sure. I mean, that you pay more. That was a little bit of my turnoff. And now there's lots of competition. There's lots of manufacturers putting out coated strings. But if you're curious, yeah, give them a try and experiment. So yeah, I don't discourage you at all. Okay, I'm scrolling a little bit. Okay, bear with me, folks. Oh, I see Scott Rhodes, DQ standing for dumb question. Or now who's the dummy now? Here I am asking for dumb questions and I don't know what DQ means. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Okay, Scott, I'm back, Scott. Scott is asking, here's a dumb question. As a learning guitarist, there are lots of ways to waste money. What are some ways that I see people wasting their money? Let me think for a minute. See, all I spend money on is musical stuff. So it all sounds like a great investment to me. It's a great question. I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, I suppose if, say, there's some, I was going to say some online program that you pay for but never use. I mean, is that, yeah, I guess that would be a waste of money. But see, I like the idea of, you see some gadget or some new thing, and as long as it doesn't drive you to the poorhouse, you say, oh, I'll try that pick, I'll try those strings, I'll try that. Man, you'd think I'd have a quick answer. Ways that people waste their money. I don't know, because I'm a fan of investing in yourself, and I'm a fan of being curious. So I don't want to say none of it is a waste of money. Nope. I'm going to have to think. I can't believe I'm stumped. So how about if I turn things back to you guys? What have you guys done? Go ahead and put in the chat. What have you guys done that you later regretted? Like, I didn't need to do that, or I regret that. I'm curious. Maybe what you guys say will jog my memory. Okay, I am scrolling a little bit here. Okay. Okay. Question. Okay. Charlie Beagle bought an Orangewood and sent it back. Didn't like the sound of it. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. You know, if you don't bond with it, you don't bond with it. And there's no, you don't have to say anything more than that. You know, I've never in my life felt comfortable with a Gibson Les Paul. Cool guitars, right? Never felt comfortable with it ever. And I try every once in a while. Nope, doesn't work for me. Doesn't work. What are you going to do? You know, saves me a lot of money, but just has never felt, the Gibson neck in general just doesn't feel right to me. And you don't have to explain any more than that, right? Guitars and deserts. Hello, guitars and deserts. One of my favorite acoustic guitar strings. Well, I use Diodario because they're so, I know what I'm going to get. I've used Diodario strings for years. The EJ16 12 gauge light gauge Diodario has a blue and white package. I'm slightly biased, and full disclosure, I've done business as a retailer with the Diodario company, and they make my job easy, and they're just a good business to do business with. And back during the pandemic, it was not lost on me that Diodario was making products for public safety. You know, they instead of making musical products, they devoted some of their factory stuff to making things like protective shields and things like that, which, yeah, that's just so cool. And just one more reason that I thought, man, Diodario is a cool company. So I have to admit, I haven't tried every acoustic guitar under the sun. I'm just really satisfied with what they do, and I like them as a company. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm curious about lots of strings. I haven't shopped around that much. Okay. Charlie Beagle asked me if I use any pedals. Yeah, I do. Same kind of thing. I use sort of the tried and true stuff, the Boss brand. I have a Boss tremolo pedal that I really like. I have a Boss blues driver that I really like. You kind of can't go wrong with them. They're not too expensive. They've been around forever. Out of the box, they just are pretty simple to start using instantly. So you can't go wrong with those pedals. And I'm one of a bazillion people who will tell you, oh yeah, man, a Boss blues driver. I mean, it's such a standard thing. I have a cool delay pedal. It's green and it's not made by Boss. Who made that? MXR. It's just out of reach. So I'm not like a pedal guy by any means, but I love a good tremolo sound. And my amp, when I'm just sitting and practicing and having fun, does not have a distorted, dirty channel. So if I want that sound, I got to get it out of a pedal. And so the blues driver is good for that. I just have a little Fender Pro Junior, one volume knob, one treble knob. I still managed to break it. I did something to the jack. I think I did something and the cable got like pulled out in a bad way and cracked something in there. How can you break it? It's only got two knobs, one speaker. I broke it. It was fixable, but so I think guitar pedals are awesome. I encourage you guys to, experiment with pedals, however you can. Here's a kind of rhetorical question. I'm aware that there's people who love guitar gear. I get that. It's fun. And we call them, guitar geeks, guitar nerds, whatever, gear freaks, something like that, affectionately. And that includes maybe a lot of you. What do you call the people that just want to play the guitar all day long? Like if I had, fill in the blank, an inexpensive imported guitar, some that retails for $150, and the equivalent guitar amp, and a weekend, I could be so satisfied sitting there practicing and having fun practicing stuff on inexpensive gear. I'm not saying that that's what I want, but like, what's the name for that person? Because that's me, man. Now I'm glad for the decent quality instruments that I have, but this what's that person called? I don't know. That's what I think about when I mean, I like searching the internet and seeing all the cool stuff out there. Don't get me wrong, I like that. But if I didn't have any of that stuff, but I had a few hours just practice with, as long as the guitar basically stays in tune, the amplifier works, I'd be so happy. I'd be happy enough. I know that's me. That's where I'm coming from. Okay. Hey, I'm looking back. We got about almost 20 minutes plus here. So let me throw something your way. And I'm going to kind of wing it. Want to wing it with me? Let's wing it. Remember that thing I said, if you guys, some of you were there at the beginning of the, oh, look at that. We got 37 viewers and 37 likes. Oh, all is well in the universe for a tiny moment. People say, here's a secret. This is the secret to unlock the fretboard. Everyone wants to unlock the fretboard, and everyone has their own idea of how to unlock the fretboard. So I'm going to throw my hat in the ring here in a cute way, because we're talking about ABCs. Okay. Let's talk about the A, not natural minor scale, or you just call it the A minor scale. We're talking about the A minor scale because it literally is the letters of the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? You start on A, you end on A. Now, if this unlocks the fretboard for you, awesome. For the moment, let's set our sights a little bit lower and just say, hey, let's do some ABC stuff on the guitar and make a mental note of what's going on here. And let's just keep it casual. Your first date with the fretboard, with unlocking the fretboard. We're gonna keep it casual, appetizers and a beer. All right. 6th string, 5th fret, index finger. That's the note A. Some of you are well aware of that. We're going to do the ABCs here. We're going to do an A natural minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G with one more A, an octave higher. So check this out. I'm going to do ABC, 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. Okay, ABC. Your job is to do it with your index, ring, and pinky, just like I'm doing it right there, ABC, and to memorize that A is 5, B is 2 frets higher at 7, C is only 1 fret higher. ABC, that's it. B and C have a unique relationship. They are always next to each other. Okay, that's unusual. Usually you have to skip over something to get to the next letter of the alphabet. This is significant. Wake up. This is significant, okay? A and B, you have to skip over something. B and C, you do not. 5, 7, 8. Now you got your ABC right there. Anytime you find any A on the fretboard anywhere, B is always 2 frets higher, and C is always the next thing after B, okay? ABC, that's all. Now check out my fretting hand. I'm going to drop down to the 5th string, 5th fret, index finger. I'm going to do the next 3 letters of the alphabet, D, E, F. Okay, D, 5th string, 5th fret, index finger. E, 2 frets higher. 7th fret on the 5th string, ring finger. F, the very next note. What? That's right, E and F. That's the other relationship where the 2 notes are next to each other. We saw that with B and C, and it happens with E and F. That's it. Those are the 2 exceptions. B and C, best chums. They're inseparable. Get it? E and F, everlasting friends. They too are inseparable. Cute, huh? Best chums, everlasting friends. Okay, now you know the 2 exceptions. A, B, C. The exception being B and C are tightly focused there together at 7 and 8. And D, E, F. There's your little exception, okay? So far we have A, B, C, D, E, F. You're almost done, right? 4th string, 5th fret. Next letter of the alphabet, G. 2 frets higher on the same string, A. one octave higher than the first A that we did. So I just did 4th string 5 with my index, 4th string 7 with my ring finger, and we've done it. We've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Sounds great going backwards. Okay, so how is this unlocking the fretboard? It might not be, but maybe it will, because we're naming this stuff, which is valuable, but we're also seeing the relationships, which is actually more valuable. The relationships being skipping a fret when it's right, or not skipping a fret. 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7. Okay, so you could memorize that. I encourage you to, and I encourage you to say the names. This is pretty important. Say the names as you do it. A, where are we here? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Can you say the alphabet backwards? Words you do not want to hear from a police officer. Hear that minor flavor, right? The faster you go, by the way, the more coherent it sounds. Notice, by the way, how little my left arm, my left hand are moving. They're not going anywhere, right? There's no reason for your arm or wrist to go anywhere, you know. I'm also doing down-up picking. That's the other secret for going fast with my picking hand. Okay. So here's where the unlocking part comes in. You know that A we left off on? 7 on the 4th string. Put your pointer finger in that A. The whole thing begins again. Okay, so I've got my pointer finger on the 4th string, 7th fret. That is the note A, right? A, B, C. Remember that relationship? A, skip a fret, that's B. Very next note is C. It has to be, because B and C have that relationship. Remember what we did before? We did A, B, C, then we dropped down one skinny string. That's, what is that? 7, 9, 10 on the G string, the 3rd string. A, B, C, D, E, F. Same relationships, right? Same fingers even, right? So, you know, by the way, the reason we're doing the A minor scale is it's the only scale that literally starts on the note A and works through the alphabet, no sharps, no flats, but every letter of the musical alphabet until you get to the next A, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so that's why I chose the A minor scale, because it doesn't have any scary names like F sharp or G flat and all that kind of stuff. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Let's start again. A, B, C, D, E, F. Now we've come to a crossroads, my friends. We are about to leave the G string and go to the B string, and this messes everything up. As many of you know, the G and the B strings have a unique kind of relationship here. We have to deal with that. So where we last left off, we had A, B, C, D, E, F. And don't forget, saying the names as you play this is so, it's so helpful. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F. I did, quick recap, 4th string, 7, 9, 10. 3rd skinny string, 7, 9, 10. Now we have to do the shift, capital T, capital S, the shift. I'm going to shift my hand up 1 fret. At the moment, my index finger is hovering at 7. I'm going to shift my hand up so my index finger is hovering at 8. And all the other fingers are going to similarly shift. My index finger is at 8. My ring finger, my middle finger is kind of hovering at 9, ring finger hovering at 10, pinky hovering at 11. We're looking for the next 2 letters of the alphabet. We did A, B, C, D, E, F. We're looking for G. Index finger 8 on the 2nd string, and A, 10 on the 2nd string. Right? Out of context, that's a really easy thing to do. Just 8, 10, right? Index ring. So your challenge is remembering to shift up from literally 7th position, that would be described as 7th position, to 8th position. And remember, all that means is that your index finger was essentially right by the 7th fret. Now it's shifting up to the 8th fret. Now check it out. We left off. We're almost done, but we left off 10 on the 2nd string of the ring finger. Put your pointer finger on that note, 10 on the 2nd string. And the whole thing begins again. Index finger, 10 on the 2nd string, that's the B string. Remember A, you skip a fret, that's B. C is the very next note. For the record, Your Honor, I did 10, 12, 13. On the 2nd string, that's ABC. Drop down like we always have been doing to the next string. Also 10, 12, 13. That's next 3 letters of the alphabet, D, E, F. Okay. If you want to complete this entire thing, you have 2 more notes, 2 more letters of the alphabet, 2 more notes from the A minor scale. They are 1st string 15 and 1st string 17. Okay. Okay, so I will put that in the description of this video. But the whole point is, hey, ABC is up and down the neck. For our purposes, we're treating that purely as a novel way of looking at the fretboard. Did it unlock something? If it did, great, great. But that, to me, what's more, the alphabet, right? There's nothing on earth that we know as fundamentally as our ABCs, right? For those of you who are English speakers, we call them ABCs. Other countries, other languages call them their version of ABC, right? But you get what I'm saying, right? ABC is pretty deep in our consciousness. So why not approach the neck of the guitar using the alphabet? That's, in a nutshell, where I'm coming from. So I don't know, play around with that, see if that changes how you look at the fretboard. But 100% say the names of the notes as you do it, okay? And enjoy that minor sound. Okay, thanks for listening. Okay, so my friends, we got 10 minutes left or so. I'm scrolling up to look for any questions. Meanwhile, I have addressed most of the things. Ooh, we didn't get to the me and Julio down by the schoolyard exercise. We might save that for next time. Excuse me, I'm going to hydrate. How can I neglect to tell you that I put some items on sale for you guys? So in the chat, I'm going to let you guys know how you can save 25%. Why not? 25%, a nice round number. Okay. You guys know that I have a bunch of learning material, mostly in the form of ebooks, right? It gets sent to you as a PDF. You open the PDF and go to town. Okay, so I put my website in the chat, and here's how you save 25%. Here's the coupon code. 25 live. L-I-V as in Valentine, E as in Echo. Okay. Whenever the mood strikes you, head on over to that website, my website, song-bike.com, and check out the ebooks. I have one hard copy paper book published by Hal Leonard Publications, and then a whole lot of ebooks, including the complete Christmas songbook. Pretty soon, we're going to dig deep into that book because holidays are coming, my friends. The complete Christmas songbook, the Strum Pattern Bible. I haven't, the DCG trick, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some. The Guitar Week 1, the Guitar Month 1, the Guitar Year 1, my series for beginners. And the Hal Leonard book, which Hal Leonard calls Easy Guitar Chord and Lead Tricks. 25% off for you. I think the sale goes through midnight tomorrow night. So, tomorrow, you can save 25% still. So that's my way of saying thank you for you guys. You've stuck around here 2 hours. Some of you have been here the whole 2 hours. You deserve something, right? I appreciate it. I want to say thank you again for those who made a super chat contribution. It's not too late. If you are so inclined, But I also appreciate you guys digging into the website and making a purchase of one of my e-books. Remember, most of them are electronic books that will be instantly mailed to the address that you give. They will be emailed to your email address as a PDF. They will not show up in your mailbox, not your actual physical mailbox, right? Except for the Hal Leonard book, which I myself package up and mail out to you should you choose to purchase that book. Anyways, 25% off, and the coupon code is 25live, 25live. Okay. So as we get closer to the end, Joseph Galasso is asking if I have heard of Glarry Guitars. I've definitely heard the name. I know they are super inexpensive. But Joseph, I don't know. Joseph is saying that you have one already for $80. Yeah, then you know more than I do. But they are definitely making a name for themselves because they're so inexpensive. But I have not. I haven't tried them out. I don't plan to. If someone sent me one, I would check it out. But no, I'm curious, like anyone. If one of my students brought one into one of my lessons, I would love to see it. Only so many hours of the day, and only so much in the budget for things. So okay, before I forget, next Saturday I plan on doing a live stream just like this, but I got a ticket to see Bob Dylan here in Connecticut. So it's possible we'll wrap up a little bit earlier next week. Technically, I think I could get there in the nick of time. Last time I saw Bob Dylan, he started like 1 minute early, and I was in the lobby, and I thought I was hearing, it took me a while to park. I think it was in Providence, Rhode Island. And I thought I was hearing like the Muzak, like playing in the lobby. And I thought, geez, that's kind of tacky, playing a Bob Dylan song in the lobby before a Bob Dylan concert. And then I realized it was pretty lonely in the lobby because everyone was inside. The show had started like a minute early, and they wouldn't let me in fast enough. I think I missed the first song. I think they had a policy maybe that they, I don't know. The bottom line is I missed the first song, whatever. So anyways, next Saturday, let's do this whole thing again. But it's possible that hey, Chaz, I'm going to interrupt myself. Thank you for the super chat, Chaz. I appreciate it. Chaz says, thanks for all you do. And I want to thank you for being here because you guys make this show. So thank you. So live stream next Saturday. We might end a little bit earlier just so I don't have to drive like a crazy person because I have no reason to think he's going to start late this time. Many Vibes says, best Bob Dylan story ever. That story? I have more Bob Dylan stories than that. Maybe you're saying you have a good Bob Dylan story. I don't know. But I've seen Mr. Dylan a number of times, and by hook or by crook, I've seen him. And that was the first time I ever was late enough, so to speak, that I missed the first song. Like, I wasn't even late, man. I was parking the car, got in there, whatever, 8 o'clock. Can't blame the guy for wanting to get down to business, you know. Many Vibes has a question. Many Vibes says, double stops always confuse me. Yeah. That's a great way. We got a couple minutes left, and let's make that the last official question of the night because it's a topic that I would love to talk about. I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing because double stops should not be confusing. So I can't tell you exactly where the name comes from, by the way. I believe it comes from on an organ, like a church organ, right? Where you pull out different levers known as stops, and that changes the tone of the organ. And fancy organs have multiple levers or stops that you can pull out, which is where the phrase comes from. The phrase pulling out all the stops. You've heard that phrase, some of you. It means, okay, you're just going for all the sounds the organ can make. You're pulling out all the stops. Okay, so the double stop terminology might come from that. I have no idea where else it would come from if not from that. Okay, so let's talk about good old Chuck Berry. the father of the double stop. Nobody owns that. Chuck Berry owns that. Nobody else owns it, is what I'm trying to say. I just did 6 and 6 on the 2 treble strings. There's a double stop. Chuck Berry slides into it from a few frets away. Why am I doing 6 and 6? Because that's from Johnny B. Goode. Chuck Berry, for whatever reason, probably because it suited his voice, he chose to record his song Johnny B. Goode in the key of B flat. And the double stop that he relies on for that great intro is the note B flat, 6 on the skinny first string, and the harmonizing note next to it, the note F, which is 6 on the second string. Okay, so in the simplest version, that's a double stop. And people, you can take your one. By the way, don't use 2 separate fingers. It's not worth it. You can do it. If any of you have any problems doing it with one finger, hang in there. You're going to use the squishy part, the center of your finger, not the tip. Okay. If anytime you're playing more than one string at a time, fretting more than one string at a time, you no longer rely on the tip. Does that make sense? You got to use the pad of your finger, so to speak. Or rolling over on the edge, potentially, if you're doing other stuff with other fingers. But remember that discussion of the bar chords. For our purposes, though, don't roll it anywhere. Just lay it flat and grab it. Okay, so there's the classic double stop sound. Can you do double stops on other strings, like other combinations of strings? Sure. With my ring finger, in this relates back to that 6-6. Okay, my ring finger, I'm focusing on the second and third strings at the 8th fret. Second string 8, third string 8. My finger can't help but to touch the first string at 8 because I'm making this little partial bar, we're going to call that partial bar, with my ring finger. But despite the fact that my ring finger is touching the skinny string, because I can't not touch it, my pick is only strumming the third and second strings. And then just to finish off this phrase, okay, 6 and 6 on the 2 treble strings, my index finger. 8 and 8 on the second and third strings, with my ring finger flattening out. By the way, my ring finger, you got to have that knuckle bending in a curvy way like a ski jump. I'm going to do it wrong for a second. Watch my left hand ring finger knuckle. It's bending the way a knuckle is supposed to bend. You won't effectively, consistently get a good grip on those strings if the knuckle is bending the right way, so to speak. Okay? You really want to, if you're going for consistency, you want to have that finger essentially straight. I'm talking about the first knuckle, the knuckle closest to your fingernail. That knuckle should not bend. I don't recommend it, put that way. Okay. Oh, what a juicy sound. That thing right there. Oh. Okay, what's that? Back to my index finger. Focusing on the second and third strings, 6th fret. I'm touching the first skinny string with my index finger, but I'm not going to pick it. I just can't not touch it. That's fine. So I'm strumming the third and second strings with it. By the way, this is all downstrokes with my pick. Now this is tricky, but hang in there. I strummed the second and third strings with my bar at the 6th fret, and then very carefully, with precision, my middle finger did a hammer-on 3rd string 7th fret. I only plucked this once with my pick. That second sound has come from my middle finger hammering down. And now in a perfect world, when you hammer down with that middle finger on the 3rd skinny string 7th fret, you do not mute out the second string. The second string is still ringing. That's not easy. That's a pain. But it sounds so cool when both of those strings are still ringing. And then to finish the melodic phrase here from Chuck Berry, ring finger, 4th string, D string, 8th fret. Slow motion. Oh, you know, it's right out of the Chuck Berry playbook, you know? Okay, so how did this all start? Many Vibes was asking about double stops. So maybe that gave you some things to think about. Now, nothing I just did just then was easy peasy, right? Don't beat yourself up if it's not coming naturally, especially like this whole notion of squeezing on multiple strings at the same time. That's tough enough. Then you throw in playing confidently, assertively with your pick and hitting 2 strings, you know, essentially at the same time, but no more than those 2 strings. Yeah, that's not easy stuff, you know. It's definitely easier on electric guitar, for sure. In fact, that's a whole nother topic for another live stream. Is electric guitar easier than acoustic? And if so, why don't we all just start electric guitars, even temporarily, you know? Something to think about, you know? Okay, so Many Vibes. Hopefully that helped you a little bit. I do have, now that I think about it, in the book called Easy Guitar Chord and Lead Tricks, the Hal Leonard physical book, I do have a double stop section, now that I think about it. So head over to song-bike.com, enter the coupon code LIVE25, LIVE25, and get 25% off. And I will mail that book to you probably Monday morning. You know, I have I buy the Hal Leonard book. Here's how it works if you are a published author. You sell them the book, and then they give you a royalty check twice a year. And I can buy the book at wholesale price from them and sell it as if I were just a music store or, you know, whatever. And it's also available from Amazon. Oh, those of you who live outside the U.S., I'm so sorry. I don't ship outside the U.S. for one reason. The shipping is more than the cost of the book itself. And you can get it from Amazon. So if any of you outside the U.S. are interested in my Hal Leonard publication called Easy Guitar Chord and Lead Tricks, just head over to Amazon or wherever you would buy stuff from, but Amazon's the way to go. So I usually get about a couple dozen at a time from Hal Leonard, and I have my little system. I have my account at stamps.com. I use what do I use? I use stamps.com, and I have labels that I get. There's blank labels. I print them out on my printer, stick them on adhesive labels. I got my nice cardboard envelopes to put them in. I buy those by the case. I got, you know, my little system, boom, 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 and the post office is like a nice walk down the block from my music shop, and I'm happy to mail those out to you guys. I always enjoy the addresses. I don't get out much, so the idea that my book is going to, you name it, anywhere in the continental U.S., it brightens my day to put a book in the mail to, you know, Colorado, Florida, Washington State, California. Someday I'll look to see if there's a state where I haven't shipped a book to. There's got to be a way I can check that, because if I haven't shipped a book to all 50 states, we've got to work on that. Okay, so you guys, just about time to wrap up. Many Fabs is asking, are my books in libraries? I don't think so. I would love it. I'm a big library fan, man. I would love it. I doubt it. But, you know, interlibrary loan, you know, anything's possible. I don't think, yeah. I don't have any reason to think that Hal Leonard promotes their books to libraries because they want to sell them, you know, for retail value. And my understanding is that libraries pay more, right? They pay more than the rest of us because, you know, the publisher has to make their money back somehow. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's available in a library. I would love, that'd blow my mind. I mean, if I was in a public library and saw my book there, blow my mind. Okay, so you guys, I will see you next week. Remember, we'll probably wrap up a little bit earlier because of the Bob Dylan concert. So I want to say a few thank yous. Thank you to Beginner Guitar Lessons for being our moderator tonight. Thank you for all of you guys for sticking around. There's 28 of you left. All right. For some of you, it's bedtime. I'm about to head out to dinner. Going to try the newest Italian restaurant in town. We only have about 10 Italian restaurants in my town here. And so it's really great to have an 11th one. I've heard good things. That's the funny thing is they're all great. They're great, man. You know, do we need an 11th one? I'll let you know next week. But this place I've heard great things about it. So we're going out to dinner tonight. My big brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, are in town visiting, and my wife, and we're all going to go have some Italian food. So sounds great. So you guys, I want to say thank you for being here. I say a few good nights. Woody, good night. Willie, many vibes. Joseph, Galasso, JG. I want to say good night to Stephen Mannion. And I know I'm going to miss a few of you. Chaz, if you're still around. Charlie Beagle. Charlie Beagle, I'm not going to order pizza tonight, even though I'm always curious about a new place in their pizza. I just had pizza last night. So I will not be getting the pizza tonight. Okay. I'll let you guys go. Head over to the website, save yourself 25%. I will see you next week. Now is a great time to invest in that Christmas book because Christmas is going to be here before you know it. And I'm happy to walk you through the details of that Christmas book. This song's it's all easy stuff. We'll talk about it next time. All right. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. If you didn't see my newest blooper video, please check it out on my YouTube channel. I think it's hilarious. I hope you do too, because I'm going to do a lot more because I can't stop myself. All right, you guys. Thank you again. Be well. Until next time, have a great week. Play your guitar every chance you can. I'll see you next time. And then the time after that, I'll give you a little review of the Bob Dylan concert. He always has such a great bunch of musicians and great guitar players with him. So I look forward to that. All right, you guys, take care.